When did you first feel that shift?
The shift comes right at the end, for me, like at the end of uni.
Because for men now it's
you suddenly go from being protected
to now you're the protector
to now
and provider.
Where's suddenly you're looked at to be a provider, and it's the view you're going to be subject to for the entire time of your life. The same way it happens for girls, that now you're going to be seen as someone that can be
a mother. Whether or not
like just because that change has happened. I think then for men, because it happens so late, and usually at the time when you're thrust out into the world, and it's very difficult for you to find comfort in friendship as guys, because suddenly everyone is out to prove himself.
Welcome back to the Can We Talk podcast. My name is Belinda and I'm your host, and I'm excited to be back with another conversation. Before I let you know who my guest is, hit the subscribe button, guys. It really helps if you're subscribing. So be sure to subscribe. And today's guest, I have the first man on the podcast. I am so excited. A lot of people have been asking, is this only a women's only thing, whatever? No, we're having some men on here because they are going through rediscovery and changing seasons as well. So welcome, So Severe. How are you feeling today?
It's good. It's good. It's good to be here.
I don't actually know your government name. Oh, is it classified information?
You know, you have to send the mobile money. But I was a bit nervous. I showed up a little early and was out there a little shaky, and I was chilling under the stairs and thinking about chilling under the stairs of competition and haters. But my optimism now is greater than care. I'm cool as can be.
Come through.
While I plot the vision that was missing back when I look on all of my years. Because back then, when I was on TV and rapping, I thought everyone had it in for me, and I was trapped in my own fears, my own feelings, all of their misgivings. But what's failure to success if you're comparing the winnings? I mean, what's a little pain? What's a little shame? What's a little Wayne? My attitude now is no ceilings. This is growing healing. This intentionally setting out the building blocks, kicking rocks out the way, and no quitting, because I know quitting. So I'm sticking tight to these large plans, like these large hands and small mittens. It's where I'm at now. Any other noise is background. I had to be blunt to myself to make it back around. Because back then, it was all about passing it. That was the goal. The goal was passing it. But I'm keep or teach now. So anywhere the gold is, that's where I'm passing.
Love it.
Yeah, it's the new edition. I'm surrounded by smart people, or people that's smart. So every time I'm in the room and get a chance, I turn to them and say, hey, Belinda, can we talk?
Yeah! Come through. I love it. Hey, the way you slid that in there was so smooth. I love it. So guys know.
I hope that explains.
That explains who's So Severe.
Yeah, that's a little bit of me.
I love it.
Yeah.
I picked up on you saying this is now what? Grown healing?
Yeah, this is grown healing. Yeah.
And in the past it was about passing it.
Yeah,
And now?
I had to be blunt to myself to make it background.
Because
back and then the goal was passing it.
Yeah.
But now, the gold is where we're passing.
So what's the gold now?
The gold? Me.
I love it. How would you call this season? Because now I'm just taking it as if it's grown healing.
Oh, yeah?
I've named your season for you now.
Grown healing.
Grown healing.
Yeah. I guess there's versions of healing that we go through as we grow up through life. And not always is it going to be the kind of healing that you're confident in. To know that, okay, now I feel like, yeah, I'm making the steps. It's kind of like you can put in all this work that is theoretical and always think that it's really just about the time you put in. And you can think, okay, I've been putting in this work for 3 years. I've been putting in this work for 5 years. And it's only until, at least in my opinion, when you start to see it from milestones of facing the same challenges. Because I feel like every year, if you're paying attention, every year you're going to be thrown some of the same exact challenges. And the exact same challenges, and
in different, showing up with different faces.
They'll show up in different places, different faces, in different people.
Yeah,
and
you even had to rhyme that one. Yeah. Different places, different faces.
But I feel like the grown part of the healing comes from when you stop thinking about it, or at least in my end, that I stopped to think about it in a measure of time, but rather in a measure of milestones. To know that, okay, I recognize this exact problem from 5 years ago. And if I'm being true to myself, it has probably reoccurred at least once or twice every year.
Yeah.
And many other times, perhaps I was avoiding the situations or, not stepping up to the plate. But now it's more in the mind frame of growth, in that the same challenges come, but my reaction is different. It's where the growing part comes in. It's the healing is there. It has always been there, but now there is more evidence that centers me in the healing for me. Yeah.
And I think, I don't know if it was Jay Shetty, there's a podcast I listened to that they were saying that's actually with the part healing is that where you recognize the same pattern or the same something and you pause and you do something different for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
It is.
Unconsciously, you've been operating in a specific way for so long. If you're comfortable sharing something that has been a repetitive pattern for you that you feel has changed in the season you're in now, it could be in regards to purpose, career, relationships, family, friends, anything personal that you're comfortable sharing, something that's like a pattern. I could give mine, for example.
Perhaps, maybe that could lead me in, because it's a bit broad as a question, and even just singling again. Yeah,
you're trying to choose
like,
which one.
Which one?
So
the camera is on, like, But I don't.
I'll give mine as you also decide which one you want to share. For me, was in friendships.
Yeah.
I had this thing where I feel like codependent friendships, where I think that I'm so close to the person, but it's actually a codependent relationship. So it has no boundaries. It has someone completely relying on you, and you're also like, there's no self-reliance within the relationship. It's like once I was friends with someone, especially like my closest friends, it's like we just meshed together, and I thought that that's what friendship and love was. But it always led to, again, resentment, things that stayed, and it was showing up continuously. Like I would have a best friend for a certain period, and then it ends with a boil over horrible conflict, right? Next year, same thing happens with another friend that I've now become closer to. And friendships kept ending that same way. But now, I'm able to recognize that love is with boundaries. I can trust you to take care of your life. And that makes me not be dependent and enter your life. I can provide support, but I'm not going to take over your problem. I know where I stop, I know where my friend stops, and also conflict management. Because before, I would wait to say if something is wrong. That's what led to the boil over the friendship. But now I know that if I'm feeling this way, how can I communicate it to my friend? And I've noticed I'm doing it differently. So now I'm saying like, okay, I have friendships that have conflict more than before, but the conflict is welcome because it doesn't, before I thought conflict meant that the friendship is not good, if that makes sense. But now it's like, no, this is welcome and this is something we can work through. And so the friendships are more balanced. It's
interesting for you to mention conflict as one of the things that you've grown from, at
Yeah.
least how to manage it, especially in friendships where you felt codependent, because it's something that I can relate to personally. In friendships, in romantic relationships, in the workspace, it's been something that I was struggling with for a long time, personally as well. And on this growth journey, it's one of those things that have been quite quite a trick to deal with, because you're not always conscious of when you're doing it until you're like, oh, snap, I'm leaning more into this thing than I should. And one of the things that I've learned to grow from is my best friend told me, be selfish. You know, like,
It's a recurring theme in the Can We
You
Talk
know.
people are coming.
Oh, yeah?
Everyone is like, listen,
Yeah.
be selfish.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
talked about it as well on her
It's
episode.
I like that. It's one of the things that has taken me so long to recognize, because I've always felt like if we all gave a little more, the world would be a better place. But then, who are we giving to if we forget to give ourselves first? You know, there's that saying, you can't fill from
You
an
can't
empty
pour
cup.
from
You
an
can't
empty
pour
cup,
from an
yeah.
empty cup.
Yeah.
And how much time are you taking to fill back in yours? And that's one of the things that I'm learning from and learning to do. I want to make a quick disclaimer for anyone watching. I don't want to come off as someone who, while yes, on their journey of growth through rediscovery, I don't want to come off as someone that has figured it out entirely.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's if I'm saying something in the conversation that we're going to have that lands, well and good that it lands. If there's something that you don't agree with, take what you agree with, eat the meat and spit the bones. What works, works. What doesn't. I'm not going to claim that I've figured it all out, that I have all the answers. One thing that I will say is that now I believe, before I didn't, but now I believe in myself enough to know that all the questions that I have for my growth, all of them are within me. All I have to do is search deeper, and I'll find the true answers. And the second thing is that rediscovery is not something that you do once, or at least that I do once. It's something that's going to have to be a continuous program and continuous self-assessment as I evolve and grow throughout the rest of my life. Because I'm always using an analogy. I'm not sure where I got it from, because I've been reading a lot for a long time. Again, trying to get through this journey thing. I was like, okay, I'm one of those people that believes if you don't know something, or if you're wrong about something, learn. Go and read. Nowadays we have podcasts, we have so many resources, the internet, the information age. So there's one of the things that I keep sharing with my friends. Like, if we were to put a photo of you from every month, from the month you were born, from your first birthday, all the way until now, and then pass it all the way until the day that you pass, and ask you, point out the real you. It seems like a broken question, It seems like a broken question, but yet we always feel like while we're on this growth journey and rediscovery, you're looking for the real version of you. Like, I'm looking for that person that I once was, that there's a real me somewhere.
Yeah,
it feels like there's a lost innocence. But if I put all the photos here, it's who's the real you. And I've got and through the years now with that was one of the first questions that I came across, and I was like, okay, now I have to think about this. And I've been thinking about the question for a long time.
Can I change that question a bit for you?
Sure.
Could it be that if we take away the real you, at which point you're looking at the photos, did you feel most at home within yourself?
Honestly, there is now.
now.
Yeah, but it's
Isn't-
not the only time, and I don't think that it's going to be the only time.
Okay, so
You
it's
get
just
because
the most...
because I feel at least my mindset now is the only time I have. I have the versions that I was before, and I have the versions that I'm going to have in the future. I've not met all the future versions of myself enough to know. Like when you ask the question, who is severe? I don't have the answer to say who I am fully. Because I've not met all the future versions of me. I've only known the versions that I've been in the past. But my perspective now is that I'll use the versions of me that I've had in the past to inform how I am responsible for me in the future and for me right now. Because there's times I was very irresponsible for who I was before. But now I'm in the sport to say, like, yeah, man, you can take up the space and own yourself and know that, yeah, you are the one that did all those things, but forgive yourself for the mistakes, because mistakes are bound to happen on the growth journey, and they're going to happen as you go forward. But you have to be present enough in this moment right now for you to know that you can look after yourself and make the right decisions right now for the future you. That's at least where I'm going with the perspective of who is the real me, and the real me is now.
Yeah. What has been the biggest change between So Severe last year? No. Let's say pre-COVID.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we don't talk about enough how much that year changed the world as a whole. Not just because of lockdown.
Yeah.
There was lockdown, obviously, and how it forced everyone to sit and isolate for the first time. Like, isolation is like a big thing in the healing journey and learning to know yourself. And we're going through it as a collective, but also we watched a lot of tragedy on a society level.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of societal trauma as well that happened. And these things, by the way, don't go away after. Like they leave imprints on you that last a couple of years. So who would you say, what has been the biggest change between Severe then? That COVID was what, 2020?
The irony is I keep thinking, like, how is it?
Time is now a myth, because I'm like, 20,
but I'm like, how is it such a round figure, 2020?
2020.
That we
were
had
so excited,
that,
first of all, for
we've been looking for, like,
it had that,
we're out of the teens. We're getting into it now.
And they were all like, So what has been the biggest change between then and now?
Learning to be comfortable in solitude. Because that for me was, I think, one of the biggest, like the biggest fights that I had. Again, coming from deep codependency.
Do you think men suffer with that more than women? I'm sorry to make it a gender thing.
Yeah.
But you were talking about friendships earlier, and I even wanted to ask you then. I think there is this notion that as women, we have fulfilling relationships in terms of friendships and this, so we're easier also as a woman, you're forced usually to sit with yourself or whatever. Men seem to be cuddled in the sense of, like, most men are usually dating, for example, at every point, or their friendships are not as intimate in terms of emotional intimacy. So there's always like that feeling of deep solitude. I don't know, like on the surface it doesn't look like it, because men are usually with groups, like, doing something, whatever, but there's that deep inner solitude. Do you feel like it's like that? Or
to get your question, you're asking if men deal with solitude more than women do?
Yeah, like that. I guess it's not solitude. I guess I'm also mistaking it for loneliness.
It might be a different thing, yeah. Because the solitude that I'm speaking about is finding comfort with being by myself and with my own thoughts. And I don't think of my thoughts as my thoughts. I think of thoughts as things I experience. Let me put it this way. I think of it as the senses. We have a sense of smell. The nose is responsible for smell. The tongue is responsible for taste. The eye is responsible for sight. And on the five senses, I prefer to approach the world with the sixth sense being the mind.
Yeah, and then you're
And
the presence behind who's watching the mind.
yeah.
You're not
I'm the one
mind.
experiencing the thoughts.
Yeah.
And so it helps me not attach to the thoughts that I'm having rather than saying that this is what I'm thinking. Because not always am I conscious of the thoughts I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You know, but
And not all the thoughts you have are true.
true.
Yeah.
That is true. But I guess to come back to your question about men and women, I think culturally, women have been raised to find, I don't know, solitude is not the word, but to find comfort in friendships. You know, it's welcomed from women to find validation in themselves as friends, in groups, to know that, oh, I'm feeling this way. And yes, I'm feeling this way. I know what you're feeling. And I think, I don't know if, again, I'm not the authority on this. I don't want to speak for women, but again, I'm not, I need to make this clear. I think what I'm saying
This
could
is
be
a safe space.
what I'm saying could be taken out of context.
No.
But I'm going to say this is just a theory that I have. And I think it comes from women going through a major transition early in their teens from when they begin to experience hormonal changes that come with, say, having periods. It's something that happens for a woman, and you suddenly know that I'm not the person that I was before this happened, and the person that I'm going to be after this happens is a different person, because now you know what it's like to feel pain from your own body. And you start to share it with another girl, and she explains, she's like, yes, I know what that's like. And then for you two, it's the same, but the third person has 1, 2, 3 things the same, but 4 and 5 are different. And those are things which then create community for women, because as women, you go through that. Guys, on the other end, we don't get to experience that, say,
There's no
transition. That one moment that, okay, now
You know,
you're
I
suddenly,
never noticed how big that is, because ours is physical. It's not
Yeah,
just
it
like
is physical.
the things that, yeah.
And I think it's the beginning of when they start to say things like women grow up faster
You've
than
grown
men.
and this. Actually,
and
the
it's-
responsibility on you at that time also increases,
Yeah.
because now, as a woman who's getting their periods, there's already like a little more responsibility now in terms of your body.
Now you can get
clean.
pregnant. You can birth a child.
You can get
You're
pregnant,
no longer,
but also
you're no longer really seen as a child.
yeah.
For men, on the other end, I think it might be that we are, because we don't have such a strong shift biologically. Ours comes from societal levels.
When did you first feel that shift?
The shift comes right at the end, for me, like at the end of uni.
Because for men now it's your
you suddenly go from being protected
to now you're the protector
to now
and provider.
Where's suddenly you're looked at to be a provider, and it's the thing that, it's the view you're going to be subject to for the entire time of your life. The same way it happens for girls, that now you're going to be seen as someone that can be
a mother, whether or not
like
it's
just because that change has happened. I think then for men, because it happens so late, and usually at the time when you're thrust out into the world, and it's very difficult for you to find comfort in friendship as guys, because suddenly everyone is out to prove himself as the one that can do it. Thankfully, on my end, I've got a very strong group of friends. And we have, over the years, cultivated a friendship and a bond that is so strong, in that, you know, there are things here which I know that I'm saying, and if they're watching, I know they're going to watch, but as they're watching, they know that I'm quoting them in some ways, word for word. And
so you're able to be vulnerable with your friends.
I feel like I'm lucky and I'm blessed to have the friends that I've got. And it also helps for me to see what other men are like when approaching different groups. From the outside, if you met me and my friends, you would think, again, we're just another group of guys because we're doing guy stuff. You know, we're getting together to watch Formula One. You know, watch sports. Yeah, watch Formula One, watch tennis. And from the outside, it might seem like that. But if you got to know us, you'd be surprised that on a table of say 6 people, only 2 drink. Everyone else is drinking water. The 5th person say he didn't want to drink today. Everyone is looking out for him to make sure, hey, my guy, why are you holding the bottle? You said you're not going to drink. Or you're on a break.
That.
You know, like we're looking out for each other. And it's not in a way of judgment. It's in a way of I call it RLS. RLS is an abbreviation for reassurance, love, encouragement, and support.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So that's, again, coming from 2020.
Would also be the values of your friendship.
Yeah. I think I was telling my best friend recently how, again, back to the 2020 situation, one of those big changes, in my solitude. I don't know if you've always felt like there's a big question mark you carry in your life, like it's like you're trying to figure out, like
24/7. Even now, as I'm
you don't know the question,
my purpose,
but there's a question mark.
There's a question.
You're like, I don't know how the sentence goes to find the question, but there's a question mark, and somewhere in it there's an answer.
Yeah.
And in my quest, there's one deep moment of solitude that I found, and again, I still reflect on it because something I feel like I'm going to be thinking about for the rest of my life. But the clarity with which it came was, I didn't know the question, but the question mark felt like the answer it gave to were those 4 things. And I felt like, these 4 things could be the solution to the question mark of the world, at least in my opinion. Love, reassurance, encouragement, and support. Those 4 things, and it always seems to be at the back of every conflict. Every conflict you find, it's either someone didn't give you reassurance, or didn't encourage you enough, or were not supportive enough to stick around and have the patience to communicate better. Supportive of the relationship. And usually it's in my instance, as someone who's recovering from codependency. It feels like reassurance is really at the core of it. Like all you really need to be told is, my guy, I'm going to take my time for myself, and doesn't mean that I'm having a beef with you or that you did something wrong. I'm coming back.
The anxious attachment, a lot of it comes from us as a society. I don't think a lot of our parents had that with us as children, that you've done wrong, but if you messed up, for example, in school, you've done bad, but it's okay, I still love you, or we'll get through it. It was never, even if you had that support from your parents, it was never verbalized. Like, it was always like, yeah, you'll be okay. Yet a lot of us do need reassurance these days. I want to take you back.
It feels, to that point, it feels like, I think this is a quick message to parents, perhaps parents that are still doing that mistake. Separate the instance in which the mistake from the personality or from the whole, because it can get very mixed. For a parent to be the person saying it, if you see infants who haven't learned to speak and are still learning their first words or their first sounds, everything that a stranger suggests to them, they're going to look to the parent first. You tell the child, come to give a hug. Even if they know you, they'll just do a quick dart at the mom or at the caretaker, and that quick dart is reassurance. Yeah. It's just like, is this okay?
Is this safe?
Does mom say it's good? Does dad say it's good? And then they go for it. Yeah. Or they make the move. So I think parents should know that they're going to always be the authority on serving reassurance, and should not make the grand mistake that a lot of people will do, to make single out the person as a bad person for having made the mistake, rather than singling out the person as a human being that can make mistakes and grow from the mistakes.
Yeah.
And that still
And yet
deserves
you
to
can
be
still
loved.
recognize that the mistake was bad.
Yeah.
But it's not, so a kid, like an example of this is like if a child does something wrong, let me say, what can I say? Does some disrespects the teacher at school. It's not now to come and be like, you have always been a bad person, you have never, like that thing of it now carries on to who I am as a whole being. It's so damaging. And also another thing I wanted to say, within society these days, people take reassurance as being needy. Because we've taken this thing of, why aren't you secure in your relationship, or this, yet it's a human need. I'm telling you guys, I have a dog, like a puppy at home. Even with him, you see he will need you to show him affection at some point.
What's your puppy's name?
Kovu.
Kovu.
After
That's
Lion
a cool
King
name.
too.
That's a cool. I've got a dog too.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's called Posky.
Of course your name is way cooler. Posky. That's a cute name.
Kovu is a cool name too.
No, I like Posky. But yeah, it's not that it's coming from a place of I need, because you hear these conversations of how do you need someone to text you every day? And it's like, maybe that's a person's need. For them, they need to know every single day that you're still thinking of them, because people's thoughts go, you know, but it's not a needy thing. I think our society has sort of pointed it as that's being needy or whatever. I want to take you back to...
You know, this is one of the things that I don't know how we're going to manage, because you're going to say stuff and I'm like, oh, there's something there that I want to react to. And, you know, it's odd. I recently landed on this, and it's also, again, something that I'm still thinking about. And fish, once they hatch, you know how to swim. You know, giraffes born in the wilds, after about maybe 30 minutes or an hour, know how to walk. You know, and it's kind of like every living thing that is born, in the moment that they're born, they have what they need to survive. And it's weird that we don't have the perspective as human beings to recognize that the one thing that a baby can do is cry, and that crying is not really to say that they're helpless, but rather to call for help. And if everything in nature is born having what they need to survive, the one thing from when we're born that we need to survive is to know how to ask for help. Babies cry. You may not even know what it is you need help with. As a parent, you don't know what the child needs help with. The child also doesn't know what they need help with, but they know that they're asking for help. And as we grow older, we are taught more and more to ask less and less for help. More and more to rely on yourself. And it's why that conflict comes when you need reassurance, or you always feel like you're now being clingy. Because that thing within you is still fighting to need for help. I think it's perhaps why also men, like you said, deal with loneliness more.
Because how are you going to tell your boy
come on, how are you now asking for help? Me
now, I ask for help. I once went into that hyper-independent side of things. I was tired. It is also, I feel like it also feeds both sides of the relationship. Like, for example, when your example of the parent and child, when you're able to soothe a crying child, you feel good. It actually doesn't feel. It also feels good for you.
It's one of the remarkable things that I have witnessed among my friends, my very close knit group of friends, my male friends, is that it feels empowering to them to know that they can show up
for their friend.
Like call me whenever you can, and even when he doesn't have the words to say, he'll go on rambling and stumbling in trying to figure out, all right, how do I comfort? How do I give this person encouragement? How do I give? I don't really know what he needs to hear. You know, sometimes you call and it's like, oh, and you know, do you just need someone to listen? Do you need someone to help problem solve? Do you need to brainstorm? And we go through those things, and not always is it going to be perfect.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you
yeah.
listen to people talk about these things, people think that it's going to be a perfect thing. Or,
Yeah.
my friend has come, because you know, people will say that thing of ask what does a person need. It's not going to look perfect every time, by the way, that your friend is going to come and you're going to say, what do you need? Comfort, and you'll know how to comfort
It's not
them.
it's not even going to be perfect when you show up
Even when
to
you show
know
up,
what
I
it is you're going to need.
I remember when I lost my sister and my friends, I could see they had, the truth is they had, and even me looking back at my friends who had suffered loss before,
Yeah.
I'm like, I wish I would have comforted them well. But I remember my friends trying to comfort me, and I could sense, you know, when you're seeing them do everything they can, these ones are sending you gifts, some people are checking in. And the truth is, even I didn't know how I wanted to be helped. So in such situations, it's not that, oh, now this person is a bad friend because they didn't comfort you the way that you wanted it to be received.
Yeah.
They're also like, with these things with healing, there's always grace of, they tried this, maybe you needed this, but were they there in the capacity that they could? You're so lucky that you have good friends. We were talking about that on another episode with Angela, the psychologist from Safe Places, and she was saying one of the most underrated important things is community. That a lot of us are trying to heal in ways our ancestors didn't. So we're trying to take on the cloth of a European feet, for example, who have grown up in communities maybe that have been able to be individualistic more and still thrive, and then you're trying to fit it on you, who's coming from a society that has always healed from a place of community. For me now is when I'm seeing certain things, you know, growing up, your parents will tell you, we're going for this family thing, and you're like, man, I don't want. But it's seeing that those things when you grow up that, oh, when I go through this is how people show up for me. So this is the importance of community. And a lot of us are trying to move away from the community side of things. Yet it's literally, it's like a bloodline, by the way, because there are times you won't be able to save yourself, but your person is the one who's going to save you. I want to take you back to that time you said that was a big major change after uni. How old are you now? I asked Severe friends, if you don't mind me asking.
What did I say? I said I didn't save it for the camera. I turned 34 last month.
So I was
which is why I said, you know, I'll say this for the TV.
He told me to guess, and I was like,
she was kind of within the range.
Yeah, around 32 to 35.
Yeah.
So it's been a minute since you left campus. You guys, no one talks about that change you go through when you're thrown into the adulting world. Like, here you are, we've given you, they lie to you that we've given you all the tools you need. And now you're just there trying to discover what the hell you want, this. What are some of the things that has helped you on that journey? You've mentioned your friends, but what are some of the things you're doing personally that have, you know, the growth you've had since then to now?
It's not like the growth started immediately. Again, getting flung into the world. It's not like uni was a straight short arrow from at least in my experience. It was a bit turbulent. I bounced around in and out. I left, came back, left, came back. This isn't for me. This is for me. Oh, this is for my parents. This is what there was a bit of all that because I was still in the conflict of, I guess, trying to separate myself from the crowd. In that, and while doing that, finding out, oh, yeah, it's a lonely path on this other side. You were
actively trying to do that? Or
no, now this is in hindsight.
Yourself?
It's in hindsight that I'm reflecting, like, you know, that perhaps maybe that's what it is that I was trying to do. Because I was really pursuing my passions while trying to pursue academic excellence at the same time, and finding the balance in that was without the right guidance. What is it for me? What is there for me to do? Because while I was pursuing all these academic routes or things, I still wanted to be an artist making music. I still wanted to be a presenter on radio. Immediately after I graduated is when I started to go through that, as it's said and anticipated. Some may even anticipated you might be in uni and still anticipating it's going to hit. It's called the quarter life crisis.
There's no way around it, by the way. It doesn't matter how prepared you think you are.
We could go on about this, especially when we start to cross the lines of gender. Those are conversations that we could have, and not in the bad way. I feel like we could just be pouring through these cups but
yeah, guys, we are coming to the end of the conversation with Sylvia. If you have anything that you want to talk about or that you found interesting, be sure to comment below. Right now we're going to pick a card from the Can We Talk deck and we get to answer a question. My question for you is, what do you wish you had started doing earlier in your life?
Meditation. Yeah, that's that alone time to listen to my thoughts and to know this is where my mind's going, you know. What is the most interesting thing that you have learned recently?
With regards to life, I think I've learned something that came up to me while I was journaling last week was, as an adult, you choose your relationships. I think for a long time we operate from a place of, you know, this one is my cousin, so I have to be present, or this one is even parents, honestly. But I think I'm realizing that I have, one of the things that adulting comes with is the ability to choose. And also what that means is when I choose this person, I'm choosing them. I know, that's the bad and the good. So it also affects, for me, I was thinking of it, of how it also affects the way I'm showing up in my friendships. That if I've chosen that this person is my friend, how am I moving when they act a certain way, when I'm this? I'm choosing to love them. It's not, before I think my relationships are so passive. Like, yeah, that's, you know, they're my brother. So I have to, you know, show up as their sister. Actually, no, you don't. So now I'm active in my relationships because I'm choosing the relationships I'm in. We've come to the end of our conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing openly. I'm sure the conversation is going to reach who it needs to reach.
I hope it does.
Yeah, and until then, can we talk? Oh, and be sure to subscribe. Subscribe, guys. Subscribe, like,
be sure to get the cards.
Oh yeah, and get the Can We Talk game.